Hegani, Falsha, Marhaba, welcome. Ndini Ganyamatope. My name is Tawona Sithole. I'm an educator, a researcher, a creative artist, a poet, and a parent. I've also been described as a Zimbabwean, someone from Zimbabwe who's been in Glasgow for a long time. I'm sorry I can't be there with you at the conference, but I'm making this film instead. I want to thank Melina and the team at Building Racial Literacy for inviting me into this journey. And I want to thank Education Scotland for setting up this initiative, this program, which is a task for all of us. The task of creating racial equality. And I want to honor all what I consider my collaborators, those whose stories I've listened to, I've read, I've witnessed in this program and also in all my time in Scotland. I believe those people are my collaborators for this piece. So even though I've crafted it, I want to honor all those voices. And the poem I'm presenting is called Seeds of Antiracist Education. Vakuru vakati chinokanganwa idemo asi muti wakatemwa haukanganwi. The proverb is a reflection that what forgets is the axe, but the tree that was cut does not forget. The mouth of this river is dreaming of words in dream time, but in the meantime, it is not going swimmingly. Bursting on the inside, but on the outside, all we see is the brave face. And so to ask, where is the safe space? Brave enough for difficult conversations, safe enough for nuanced observations. Elsewhere, it is just life. Racism is not a problem in Scotland. Oh God, she's talking about race again. And at the same time, no matter how loud I'm perceived to be, my voice is still not being heard. I feel I cannot bring my whole self, just the parts that are acceptable. And in the meantime, instead erasing the young, talking of problem behavior, unfair burden placed on people of color, racial trauma leading to mental unwellness. And in all this embarrassing richness, we cannot afford to ignore race. To ignore race is to ignore ourselves. To neglect healing is to neglect learning. Fundo, kuno astere, sikna, altalim, ion seich. So much ground covered, so much left uncovered in the spirit of this dear, rugged land. The mouth of this cave is yawning in song. Yawn time, but in the dawn time, it is not going harmoniously. Brimming on the inside, but on the outside, all we see is the brave face. And so to ask, where is that safe space? Brave enough for collaboration, safe enough for co-creation. Elsewhere, it is just life. I don't see color. I'm colorblind. I just concentrate on what unites us. And at the same time, they gave me a place, but they don't want me to fully occupy that space. I'm expected to accommodate others so that my difference does not offend them. And in the dawn time, instead of raising, instead erasing the young, talking of problem behavior, unfair burden placed on people of color, racial trauma leading to mental unwellness. And in all this embarrassing richness, We cannot afford to ignore race. To ignore race is to ignore ourselves. To neglect healing is to neglect learning. Fundo, kuno astere, sikna, altalim, ion sake. So much ground covered. So much left uncovered in the spirit of this dear, rugged land. The mouth of a ventriloquist is dummying the run, in dummy time, but in running time. It is not going ticketable, bubbling on the inside, but on the outside. All we get to see is the brave face. And so to ask, where is the safe space? Brave enough for the insatiable search for justice. Safe enough for the amplifying of voices trapped in brackets. Elsewhere, it is just life. What does it have to do with me? It's all in the past. Let's move on. And at the same time, am I good enough? I'm not good enough. Why am I different? I don't want to be different. And in running time, instead of raising, instead erasing the young, talking of problem behavior, unfair burden placed on people of color, racial trauma leading to mental unwellness. In all this embarrassing richness, we cannot afford to ignore race. To ignore race is to ignore ourselves. To neglect healing is to neglect learning. Fundo, kuno astere, sikna, altalim, ion sech. So much ground covered, so much left uncovered in the spirit of this dear green land. All we get to see is the brave face. But there is a brave, safe space, a teaching and learning program called Building Racial Literacy. What everybody should be doing: promoting racial equality and anti-racist education, safe and inclusive, where it's okay not to always stand tall, where it's okay not to always stand at all. Sometimes we have to stumble a little. Real is okay, but I kind of like the surreal, where we take those stumbling blocks and we turn them into building blocks in the spirit of this dear, rugged land. My Habibti and I are raising 2 little girls. And if they came one day saying, "Mama, Baba, I hate my hair. I want to be blonde," I would say, put an E after D. Dictionary says that is the correct female form. I wouldn't say that. I would tell them what they tell me. You're sparkling on the inside. You have a rich culture where you come from. We all have varying amounts of melanin. But they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear that from me. They want to hear it from friends and peers, teachers, neighbors and mates. They need to hear it from out there. And they may settle for now. For now is not the time to get into it, to get into what they say. Teach them to be proud of who they are. But how can they reach for pride when they're still figuring out how to tie shoelaces, do and undo buttons? And they are not alone. They are just among all who just want to belong. all children of this dear, rugged place. I don't want to see another brave face. I want to imbibe the vibe of ancients. The proverb is a reflection that tend them all, for all have seeds inside. Chenga ose mananga, hapana risina mhodzi. Hey Kani, thank you all so much for listening. Ndini Ganyamatope.
Spinning the depot out.
Yay.
Yeah.